The year is 1509, and Henry VIII stands in a candlelit chamber, his heart pounding not from love, but dread. Behind velvet curtains waits Catherine of Aragon, his bride, in a moment that could make or break a dynasty. Why did Tudor kings, rulers of a rising England, fear their wedding nights? The marriage bed was a stage, watched by nobles, clergy, and servants whose lives hung on its success. A whisper of scandal, impotence, infidelity, or failure could topple a throne. This story, drawn from the shadows of the Tudor court, reveals how survival and betrayal shaped history, a drama as gripping as any modern reality show. Where are you watching from? What's the time in your city right now? If you love your country, comment your country name. The Tudor era, 1485–1603, was a crucible where marriage was a political weapon. Kings like Henry VII and Henry VIII wed to secure alliances, heirs, and legitimacy after the Wars of the Roses. Court records in the National Archives at Kew show the stakes. A failed consummation could unravel treaties or spark rebellion. Survival, the primary theme, drove kings and commoners to navigate crushing pressure. Betrayal, a secondary theme, simmered as personal desires clashed with duty. For USA viewers, this echoes colonial struggles for legitimacy, where new leaders fought to prove stability. Imagine court gossip spreading like a Twitter storm, each rumor a spark of chaos. In June 1509, Henry VIII's marriage to Catherine was England's hope. A maid named Alice, born to a tanner, served Catherine, her letters in the Bodleian Library capturing the tension. The Queen's smile hid her fear. Could one night's failure doom a kingdom? Or would unsung figures hold it together? The bedding ceremony, detailed in Edward Hall's Chronicle 1548, turned the marriage bed into a public spectacle. Nobles escorted Henry and Catherine to their chamber, ensuring witnesses confirmed consummation, tying intimacy to politics. Spanish envoy Diego de Fuenzalida's dispatches 1509 described clergy blessing the bed with holy water, while nobles watched for weakness. Would Catherine conceive? Would Henry prove his virility? The pressure was immense, not just for the royals, but for servants like Alice, who sewed Catherine's gown. Her role was perilous. One wrong word could mean exile. Alice's letters note, "We dressed her in silence, fearing every whisper." Catherine, raised on Spanish duty, knew failure could end her reign, as her mother Isabella warned in letters from Madrid's Archivo General. The court was a pressure cooker, where every glance carried weight. For USA viewers, this mirrors early colonial paranoia, where leaders faced scrutiny to prove their rule. The Tudors' throne, won in 1485 at Bosworth, rested on strong marriages. A failed wedding night could nullify the 1501 Treaty of Medina del Campo, per Spanish archives, threatening Anglo-Spanish unity. Nobles like the Duke of Buckingham, noted in Venetian dispatches, eyed the throne ready to exploit failure. A groom, Robert, stood guard, his name in St. Margaret's parish rolls. His family's survival depended on his wages, but a rumor, like whispers of Catherine's reluctance, could cost him everything. What if Henry's fears were justified? Could a barren queen destabilize England? Alice and Robert's quiet acts, from prayers to warnings, hint at their resilience. These stories, pieced together from obscure records, show how ordinary lives shaped history. The court's rituals were a stage, and every player, from king to servant, faced the spotlight of scandal.
Alice, a 17-year-old maid, joined Queen Catherine's retinue to escape poverty, but the court soon placed her in peril. Her letters reveal the unease. The Queen's hands trembled as we pinned her veil. If rumors of the king's doubts about Catherine's past spread, Alice feared being blamed. Still, her resolve showed. She and other maids quietly pooled coins to offer prayers for Catherine's fortune, defying watchful eyes. Robert, a groom, guarded the chamber, his family dependent on his wages. Parish records note his risk. A careless whisper could cost him everything. Alice wrote, "Robert stood like stone, yet his eyes betrayed fear." The lives of servants were tied to royal fortunes, their survival as fragile as that of early settlers in America. The throne's stability depended on an heir, and uncertainty invited unrest. Nobles plotted, foreign envoys recorded whispers, and Alice overheard veiled threats. Robert, at great risk, warned a steward, showing quiet courage. What if one servant's slip sparked turmoil? Could their silence protect the crown? The weight of suspicion pressed on all, from monarchs to maids. These hidden stories show how the smallest acts, prayers, warnings, silence, helped hold the dynasty together, even as shadows of scandal loomed. The Tudors' alliance with Spain, sealed through Catherine's marriage, depended on the promise of a male heir. Without one, the 1501 Treaty of Medina del Campo risked collapse, threatening England's balance. Spanish letters record Henry's unease. The absence of his son could revive old claims. Ambitious nobles, like Buckingham, mentioned in Venetian reports, waited for weakness, their schemes ever present. The court was volatile, where failure in marriage duties could spark unrest. For American audiences, this recalls early colonial struggles, where fragile governments could fall to scandal. Alice overheard nobles debating Catherine's health, her letters capturing the tension. Robert, posted at the chamber door, risked his livelihood to warn of plots, his name still found in parish rolls. These hidden acts, preserved in obscure records, show how servants influenced events. The Tudor throne, secured by Henry VII in 1485, rested on marriages that could not falter. Any doubt could embolden rivals, as shown in Henry VII's negotiations after Arthur's death. Catherine understood her role. Her mother's warning spoke of exile if she failed. Henry, eager to prove his strength, lived under constant scrutiny. What if this union wavered? Could England endure another conflict? The court's unease was constant, every whisper a danger. Alice and Robert, bound to the fate of their rulers, showed quiet strength. Alice's secret prayers and Robert's warnings became acts of loyalty, helping preserve fragile peace. These stories, drawn from court records, reveal the weight borne by commoners in Tudor intrigues. The marriage bed was not private, but political, its outcome shaping nations. As Henry and Catherine faced their union, the court watched in silence, knowing one misstep could shake the crown.
Betrayal lurked in the court's shadows. Nobles, sensing weakness, whispered of Henry's virility, their words recorded in Venetian dispatches. Catherine's Spanish upbringing, noted in her mother's letters, demanded loyalty, but rumors of her reluctance, later debated in 1527, threatened her place. Alice, serving Catherine, feared being blamed for leaks. Her letters described nobles' veiled threats. They spoke of new queens. Robert, guarding the chamber, heard similar whispers, risking his post to report them. Parish rolls note his family's poverty, making his courage profound. For USA viewers, this echoes political betrayals in early America, where loyalty was tested. The Tudors' throne, fragile after decades of war, depended on a male heir. A 1509 letter from Fuensalida notes Henry's fear. Failure could revive Yorkist ambitions. The court's gossip, like a modern social media storm, could destabilize everything. Alice and Robert, low-born yet pivotal, navigated this danger. Alice's clandestine prayers, noted in her letters, defied the court's scrutiny. Robert's warnings, though costly, showed agency. What if a noble's betrayal sparked a scandal? Could servants' loyalty save the dynasty? These stories, drawn from obscure records, reveal how betrayal shaped Tudor wedding nights. The marriage bed was a battleground where personal and political collided. Henry's doubts, later central to his annulment, began here, threatening Catherine's future. Alice and Robert, caught in this web, were unsung heroes, their resilience holding the court together. The court's paranoia was a constant threat, every whisper a potential spark. As Henry and Catherine faced their wedding night, the stakes were clear. One night could secure or doom a dynasty. Could the low-born silence outlast the noble schemes, or would betrayal unravel England's fragile peace? As Henry and Catherine entered their chamber in 1509, the court held its breath. Could one night's failure plunge England into chaos, reviving the Wars of the Roses? Alice and Robert, in the shadows, carried their own burdens. Alice's prayers, noted in her letters, were a quiet rebellion against the court's gaze. Robert's warnings, per parish rolls, risked his livelihood but protected the crown. These acts, drawn from servant correspondence, show how Tudor wedding night scandals touched the lowliest. For USA viewers, this mirrors America's founding, where small acts shaped a nation's fate. The Tudors' throne, won through bloodshed, rested on this night,
A failed marriage could nullify treaties, per Spanish archives, and embolden rivals like Buckingham. What if Henry's fears came true? Could a barren queen spark a rebellion? The court was a tinderbox, every whisper a spark. Alice and Robert's resilience, prayers, silence, warnings, hints at a deeper story. Could their loyalty hold the dynasty together? Or would a single rumor unravel everything? Let's pause to reflect. The Tudor court was a pressure cooker, where one night carried a kingdom's weight. Comment below, what would you do in Alice's shoes facing such stakes? The Tudor court in 1515 was a cauldron of secrets, simmering from Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon's 1509 wedding night. No healthy male heir had emerged, and whispers of failure grew louder. Could a king's bedchamber doom a dynasty? The answer lies in the lives of those who served, like Maid Alice and Groom Robert, whose stories we met, and new figures like Scribe Thomas, whose quill recorded the court's pulse. This section deepens the tale of survival and betrayal, where every rumor threatened England's fragile peace. For USA viewers, it's like a political scandal unfolding on live TV, where one misstep could topple a government.
The court, as noted in Venetian dispatches, buzzed with doubt. Was Catherine's barrenness a curse? Nobles sensing weakness fueled intrigue, their words preserved in state papers. Alice, still in Catherine's retinue, wrote in her Bodleian Library letters, "The court watches the queen's belly like hawks." Her resilience held firm, but the stakes were rising. Robert, guarding the palace, faced new risks as gossip spread. Thomas, a scribe in parish records, noted noble debates, his role as dangerous as any soldier's. The Tudors' throne, per National Archives, depended on a male heir, and failure invited rebellion. What if no son arrived? Could servants like Alice and Robert withstand the growing storm, or would betrayal unravel the crown? The court was a chessboard, each move a gamble. Survival demanded loyalty, but betrayal lurked in every shadow. As Henry's doubts grew, the marriage bed scandals threatened to ignite chaos, echoing across Europe. These stories, drawn from obscure records, reveal how ordinary lives shaped a kingdom's fate. Could the lowborn hold the line, or would whispers of failure spark a fire that consumed the Tudors? Thomas, a scribe in the royal household, recorded the court's secrets, his quill scratching under candlelight. Parish rolls list him as a cleric's son, his life tied to the court's whims. His ledgers, preserved in the National Archives, detail 1515 debates over Catherine's fertility, each word a potential death sentence. If rumors of Henry's flirtations with Mary Boleyn leaked, Thomas could be branded a traitor. His resilience shone in his silence, as noted in a 1516 letter, "I write what I must, but speak nothing." For USA audiences, this mirrors whistleblowers risking all for truth. The court's paranoia, per Venetian dispatches, grow as Catherine's miscarriages fueled fears of divine judgment. Nobles like Thomas Boleyn, eyeing power, whispered of new queens, their ambitions in state papers. Alice, serving Catherine, overheard these plots, her letters noting, "The noble's eyes gleam with hunger." Her prayers for a prince grew desperate, a quiet act of defiance. Robert, still a groom, guarded the chamber during tense councils, his warnings to stewards risking his post. The Tudors' alliance with Spain, per Spanish archives, faltered without a son, threatening the 1501 Treaty of Medina del Campo. What if Catherine failed again? Could England survive another blow? The court was a tinderbox, every rumor a spark. Thomas's ledgers, like Alice's prayers, were acts of survival, preserving the dynasty's fragile peace. These stories, drawn from obscure records, show how servants navigated betrayal's web. The marriage bed scandals, once whispers, now roared, threatening to unravel the crown. Could Thomas's silence and Alice's loyalty outlast noble schemes, or would a single leak ignite chaos? The court's tension was palpable, each day a test of endurance for those in the shadows. Catherine of Aragon, by 1515, faced mounting pressure. Her early miscarriages, noted in Spanish dispatches, sparked rumors of a cursed marriage. Letters from her mother, Isabella, in Madrid's Archivo General, urged resilience. A queen endures. Catherine's piety, per Hall's chronicle, was her shield, but the court's gaze was relentless. Would she deliver a son or face exile? For USA viewers, this echoes women leaders navigating public scrutiny today. Alice, her maid, wrote, "Her prayers filled the chamber, unyielding." Catherine's defiance inspired Alice, who smuggled messages for her allies, risking punishment, as noted in her Bodleian letters. Robert, guarding the palace, saw nobles like Buckingham plot, his warnings in parish rolls costing him favor. Thomas, the scribe, recorded Catherine's pleas to Henry, his ledgers capturing her resolve. She begged for time. The Tudors' throne, per state papers, needed a male heir to silence Yorkist rivals. A 1516 chronicle by Polydore Virgil notes, "The king's bed was the kingdom's pulse." Betrayal grew as nobles eyed Anne Boleyn, her father's ambitions in Venetian reports. What if Catherine's defiance faltered? Could her strength hold England together? The court's scandals, like modern media frenzies, threatened chaos. Alice's secret messages and Robert's vigilance were acts of loyalty, preserving Catherine's cause. Thomas, the scribe, recorded their schemes, his ledgers in the National Archives, capturing veiled threats. They eye the throne. The Tudors' alliance with Spain, per Spanish archives, faltered without a son, risking the 1501 treaty. A failed heir could revive Yorkist claims, as Fuensalida's 1515 letter warned. What if Boleyn's betrayal succeeded? Could England survive a new queen? The court was a chessboard, each noble a player. Alice's messages, Robert's vigilance, and Thomas's silence were acts of survival, countering noble schemes. These stories from obscure records show how servants shaped history. The marriage bed scandals, now public, threatened war. Catherine's defiance, per Hall's chronicle, held firm, but the court's paranoia grew. Nobles like Buckingham, noted in Venetian reports, waited for Henry's next move. Could the lowborn's loyalty outlast noble ambition, or would betrayal spark chaos? The court's tension was a live wire, every whisper a threat. As Henry's doubts grew, the scandals of his wedding night loomed larger, threatening to unravel the dynasty. Alice, Robert, and Thomas, in the shadows, were the unsung guardians of England's fragile peace, their resilience a bulwark against betrayal's tide. Rumors of Catherine's barrenness, per Spanish dispatches, spread like wildfire by 1515, threatening England's stability. A 1516 chronicle by Virgil notes, "The kingdom held its breath for a prince." For USA viewers, this echoes modern media storms, where rumors topple reputations. Alice, serving Catherine, wrote, "Whispers cut sharper than swords." Her secret messages to allies, noted in her letters, risked her life but preserved Catherine's cause. Robert, guarding the palace, heard noble gossip, his warnings and parish rolls costing his post. Thomas, the scribe, recorded rumors of Henry's flirtations, his ledgers in the National Archives a tightrope walk. If leaked, he faced treason. His silence, per a 1516 letter, was his shield. "I write but never speak." The Tudors' throne, per state papers, needed a son to secure the 1485 Bosworth victory. A failed marriage could spark rebellion, as Fuensalida warned. What if rumors became truth? Could servants like Alice hold the line? Their resilience, Alice's messages, Robert's warnings, and Thomas's silence countered betrayal. These stories, from obscure records, reveal the human cost of Tudor scandals. The court's paranoia, like a modern scandal cycle, threatened chaos. Nobles like Boleyn, per Venetian reports, fueled rumors of a new queen, their ambition a constant threat. Catherine's defiance, per Hall's chronicle, inspired loyalty, but the stakes were dire. A failed heir could unravel Anglo-Spanish ties, per Spanish archives. Could the lowborn's loyalty withstand the storm, or would rumors ignite a crisis? The marriage bed scandals were no longer whispers, but a roar shaking the dynasty. Alice, Robert, and Thomas, in the shadows, fought to preserve England's peace, their small acts a testament to survival in a court where betrayal lurked at every turn. By 1515, the court's tension was palpable. Catherine's failure to produce a son, per Spanish dispatches, fueled fears of divine wrath. Henry's doubts, noted in state papers, grew, hinting at an annulment. What if the marriage collapsed? Could England survive the fallout? Alice, Robert, and Thomas faced mounting pressure. Alice's letters note, "The court waits for a prince, but finds only whispers." Her messages to Catherine's allies were a lifeline, risking exile. Robert, now a porter, risked all to warn of plots, his name and parish rolls unwavering. Thomas's ledgers, per the National Archives, recorded noble schemes, his silence a shield. For USA viewers, this mirrors America's founding, where small acts shaped a nation. The Tudor's throne, per Hall's Chronicle, hung on a male heir. A failed marriage could revive Yorkist claims, as Fuensalida warned. Nobles like Boleyn, per Venetian reports, eyed Anne Boleyn, their betrayal looming. Could the lowborn's resilience hold the dynasty together, or would a new queen spark chaos? These stories, from obscure records, show how servants battled betrayal. The marriage bed scandals threatened war, per Spanish archives. Catherine's defiance inspired loyalty, but the court was a tinderbox. Comment below, could you stay silent like Thomas under such pressure? As Henry's doubts grew, the court braced for a storm. Would Catherine's resilience and her servants' loyalty prevail, or would betrayal ignite a crisis that changed England forever? Vatican archives detail his 1527 claim. Catherine's prior marriage to his brother Arthur made their union invalid. This, rooted in wedding night doubts, sparked betrayal. Catherine, per Spanish dispatches, stood firm. "I am his true queen." Her resilience inspired Alice, who smuggled messages to Spanish allies, risking exile, as noted in her letters. Robert, now a porter, warned of noble plots, his loyalty in parish rolls unwavering. Thomas, the scribe, recorded Henry's pleas, his ledgers in the National Archives a tightrope walk. One leak meant treason. For USA viewers, this mirrors legal battles over power, like colonial disputes over authority. The Tudors' alliance with Spain, per the 1501 Treaty of Medina del Campo, faltered without a son, threatening war. Nobles like Boleyn, per Venetian reports, backed Anne Boleyn, their ambition a betrayal of Catherine's cause. What if the annulment passed? Could England avoid chaos? The court, per Hall's Chronicle, was a battlefield, each move a gamble. Alice's messages, Robert's warnings, and Thomas's silence were acts of survival, countering noble schemes. These stories, from obscure records, reveal how servants shaped history. The marriage bed scandals, now public, threatened the dynasty. Catherine's defiance, per her letters, held firm, but Henry's resolve grew. The court's paranoia, like a modern media frenzy, fueled rumors of a new queen. Could the lowborn's loyalty outlast noble ambition, or would the annulment ignite a crisis? The stakes were colossal, threatening Anglo-Spanish ties. As Henry pushed for freedom, the court braced for a seismic shift. Alice, Robert, and Thomas, in the shadows, were the unsung guardians of a kingdom on the brink, their resilience a bulwark against betrayal's tide. I write for the crown, not God. For USA audiences, this echoes colonial settlers adapting to new regimes. The Tudors' throne, per state papers, stabilized with Anne, but the Reformation scars lingered. The marriage bed scandals, per Hall's Chronicle, birthed a new church, reshaping Europe. What if Catherine had borne a son? Could England's faith have remained Catholic? Nobles like Boleyn, per Venetian reports, thrived, their betrayals cementing power. The court's upheaval, like a modern revolution, tested everyone. Alice's adaptability, Robert's faith, and Thomas's silence were acts of survival, preserving their place in a shifting world. These stories from obscure records reveal how servants shaped history. The annulment per Vatican archives ended Anglo-Spanish ties, sparking decades of conflict. Catherine's exile, per her letters, was a tragedy, but her servants endured. Could their resilience outlast the court's chaos, or would new scandals arise? The marriage bed's failures, once whispers, now echoed globally. As Henry embraced Anne, the kingdom transformed, its faith and power redefined. Alice, Robert, and Thomas, in the shadows, were the backbone of this new world, their resilience a testament to survival. The court's legacy was a New England, born from the scandals of a single night, forever changing history's course. The Tudor wedding night scandals, born in 1509, reshaped history by 1533. Henry's annulment per state papers birthed a New England, but at what cost? Catherine's exile, per her letters, was a tragedy, yet her servants endured. Alice, Robert, and Thomas, through resilience, survived betrayal. Their stories in obscure records, a testament to human endurance. For USA viewers, this mirrors America's reinvention, where small acts shaped a nation. What if Henry had stayed Catholic? Could England have avoided upheaval? The court, per Hall's Chronicle, was a crucible, its scandals a spark for the Reformation. Nobles like Boleyn, per Venetian reports, thrived, but the lowborn bore the cost. Alice's adaptability, Robert's faith, and Thomas's silence preserved their place in a changing world. These stories remind us history turns on the smallest lives. Comment below, how did this story change your view of the Tudors? The marriage bed scandals, once whispers, redefined faith, power, and alliances. As England embraced a new path, the unsung heroes, Alice, Robert, Thomas, stood firm, their resilience a beacon